Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. North Carolina People is in the Children's Theater in the city of Charlotte this evening. We're here visiting with our good friends in Mecklenburg County and through television, of course, with all of you. We're here to celebrate Kay Kaiser, one of the founders of University Television, as we all know. And we have as our guest tonight a man who is truly a legend in his own time, Dean Smith. We'll talk with him in just a few seconds.
Production of North Carolina People is made possible by a grant from Wachovia Bank, a symbol of strength, stability, and service for over a century.
Dean, I think everybody in North Carolina knows that you've won every championship there is to win, but the ACC, of course, a dozen or so times. Twice the NCAA champion, the NIT. Then you had that great thrill of the '76 Olympic gold medal. You've been our Coach of the Year in the United States 3 times by choice, but you're also a very respected and wonderful citizen in Chapel Hill. But you and I are here celebrating Kay Kaiser. You remember him?
I sure do. Georgia, of course, but you know, I was struggling, as you remember, that first 2 years or so in coaching. And Will and Jim, we didn't have a lot of people making noise, and you know, we don't have that problem anymore at Carmichael or even our new place. But I went to Kay up on the Franklin Street, the second floor, and I said, you know, we followed you through television, movies, radio, and you have any ideas? And he said, you know, it'd be good to get a little band, a little, maybe it might even be a Dixieland band from the students, and get some enthusiasm. And so I said, will you come cheerlead? You know, and he said, no, I'm past that. And but we did get a group, and Terry Sanford was governor at the time, and his wife Rose just loved this little Dixieland band, and we publicized them, and they were excited. And of course they weren't on television much then, but they still got some notoriety, and so we had some enthusiasm, and I found out that helped. It also helped to win a game or two. But really, we were very fortunate to have Kay and his support those many years. I'm just thrilled to be here trying to raise money for such a great cause for Kay and Georgia.
I think we should say that we're before a live audience, too, so all of our friends here.
Yeah, that's why we keep pointing.
And they'll be seen on camera as they wander around. But listen, I was up in the mountains Sunday a week ago, and I ran into Hugh Morton. And I said, I'm going to be visiting with Dean Smith soon. What have you got in your film library? Well, Hugh went back and dug up all of these prints you see around here on the stage, but one other one. And I want to hold it up here, because I thought it was very, very nice. It's your mom and dad.
Oh.
And they were people who gave their lives to public education in Kansas. What was it like growing up out there on those cold wintry plains?
It isn't that bad. And I remember Frank McGuire, he said, take me out there. I want to see some cowboy and Indians. And of course, there weren't any of those around when I was growing up. But really, Kansas, you know, was a special time in my life. I feel I've been here for so long now. But Dad and Mom were both have their masters in education, and we heard the right English, I hope, you know, going through, and it helped me on the SATs or something. That, but they were special leaders, and you know, one thing I will say that Dad being a coach, he coached football, basketball, baseball, and track. But I remember in World War II, most of these people are too young to remember World War II, but I was, believe it or not, I was young too. But I remember all those players Dad had coached coming back on furlough. They only had maybe 10 days. They'd been overseas and come back, and they wanted to come over. And I always felt, Dad taught me, you know, we owe them because they played for us. And the other thing I think he taught, back when it wasn't very popular in the 30s in Kansas, he had a couple of African-American players that they tried to kick him out of the association, and he fought. And so I was, I think, raised right about the human family, and I'm grateful for that.
You played basketball at the university. You played on an NCAA championship team. You played under a great coach named Fog Allen. Did he influence what you've done since then?
Yes, you know, we got to get to something now. These people don't want to hear about me, but really, Dr. Fog Allen was just a special man, and he was, gosh, he was older than I am when I went there. That's old. But still, I think, he's big on fundamentals. Adolph Rupp played for him in 1923. I played for him in 1953. So Adolph called and said, let's get together. We both played for the same coach, and he thought we were a sure win, so that's why he called. But Dr. Allen was a very motivational type, as far as locker room talks, and you could say the Knute Rockne type, although he and Knute Rockne were friends.
Right.
But certainly there's some things, and we've used, some things we haven't used because, have you ever noticed at our place, if you throw the ball away, I stand up and say, nice idea. I don't want, because in Kansas, if I threw the ball away, I would, it's out of bounds. I didn't even think of going back on defense. I'd go to the bench because there would be a sub for me right there. So I changed that. But we do copy Dr. Allen and Dick Harp at that time.
Here's another picture I found up there. You recognize?
What is this? This is your life story?
It's, if I can show enough pictures, it is. Yeah. But this is you and Frank McGuire, the man who brought you there, and of course
Joe Quigg.
Joe Quigg.
Joe just had his 52nd or something birthday, or more than that. But Coach McGuire invited me to come as assistant coach in 1958, and it was an exciting time. I was at the United States Air Force Academy. The first 3 years of the academy, when they moved to Colorado Springs from Denver, where we were, I moved to Chapel Hill and been very happy ever since. He did, and Frank tells this story, it was true. He went to Chancellor Aycock, and he said, I want you to know, I want Dean, but he's a Baptist. And he said, well, they have more Baptists here than they have sparrows, so bring him on. So Bill Aycock was special from that time on.
When Frank McGuire left and went to the pros, so Bill Aycock called you in, and at 30 years of age, you became head of the Tar Heel basketball program. You wrote something, you said somewhere in one of those stories that first year you were scared stiff a time or two.
Actually, Chancellor Aycock was just so very special. He gave me kind of his guidelines. Now they talk about presidents being in charge. I knew he was in charge, and he should be in charge. It was continued through Carolina, through Chancellor Citizen, Farabee Taylor, and I think, of course, Chris Fordham's just an outstanding chancellor. But it really was special that time to have the administration's support, and he certainly gave it. But it wasn't the best of times since we couldn't. You were in on this, and they'd take the schedule down to 17 games, and you couldn't recruit but so far, and it wasn't the best of times. But I'm sure you okayed his selection of me, I hope.
Yes, I certainly did. Wrote it up. That was easy to do.
Long time ago.
As you say, we've talked a lot about history, but from your own playing days at Kansas, Dean, until now, the game has changed a great deal. You've been one of the innovators, Four Corners, for example, that Phil Ford did so well. What do you see in the future now? The game is speeding up, so what do you see out there ahead?
Well, ironically, some of the things we did at Kansas, we were the first to use pressure defense. Everybody hears about it now, of staying between, if I'm guarding you, I'd stay, there's the ball, I'd keep you from getting the ball. And Phil Wolpert came to study at Kansas and said, I got this guy named Russell, and we want to play pressure defense. So that has continued. We were the first in the NCAA tournament of '53 to do this. And I think the fundamentals have not changed a great deal. Believe it or not, we were shooting one-hand shots and jump shots, although Dr. Allen wanted to shoot his underhand foul shots. But I think the game has progressed, and I'm really concerned about the direction it's headed, in that it should be a game of finesse, not who's strongest. And now it's back to the, it's just so hard to call everything. And now being on television, if I were officiating, I wouldn't want everybody judging my call. So you don't call anything, and it's not on television, see, because nobody misses that. So I think we got problems in the game from that direction, but it's an exciting game. We've always done the fast break here, so we really haven't changed a great deal. But each year we try to change depending on our personnel. But I think television is perfect for basketball, or basketball is perfect for television. You got a nice big ball you can see. I love golf. I watch golf. Where's the ball? And you got a big ball, and you got only 10 people, and what a marriage that has become. And so I think you'll find that we have to start calling fouls. Then And the pros will change. So unfortunately, now the NBA has become the leader where high school kids watch and junior highs, and they see all that, pushing, shoving, and they're going to start calling it, and we start calling it. Then we'll get back to, I don't want to stop a foul shooting game, but kids know, hey, if I foul, I'm out of the game. That's a pretty good deterrent to foul. Keep them from fouling.
We've talked in the past about several things. Let me raise them again with you. The basketball camp. What should be done in the future about these summer camps?
Yeah, we've been on the show a few times, and if you ever go back reruns, you'd hear some of the same things. But basketball camps, per se, has been handled now. There are not even hardly any prospects there, except Hubert Davis did come to our camp when he was 10 years old, and didn't get much. He got better every year, and I still told him, I don't think you're good enough, but it shows how much I know. But I do think where we have problems in the summer now because of recruiting writers. Some of these guys, a friend of mine out there probably has a recruiting writer that they find out about these guys, and the high schools have no control over them in the summer, so here comes promoters in and under the guise of the AAU, and it's just a mess out there. And I think they have to address that. The NCAA has to address this like they do for college. Let's say this year, if Jerry Stackhouse or Donald Williams could go out and be promoted for a game in L.A., well, it'd be crazy, wouldn't it? But see, colleges say we do control them in the summer, so I think we must do that. But there's so many things you'd like to change, but most people here like to watch a game, and you don't see, it does change, the rules are changing, the President's Commission has been a good thing, and then I think not so good. And if you want to get into that, I don't mind talking about that either.
We'll do that. But on the question of playing games at night, you've observed here in the past that maybe 9 o'clock games, getting home at 1 a.m., going to class the next morning, that's a little too much.
It is for college students,
yeah.
And our student athletes. Also, I think a lot of chancellors, presidents probably don't know a lot of people don't take a 2 o'clock class because a lot of their students are watching soap operas, but none of these people ever did that type of thing.
No.
But I really think in television, you have schools calling up ESPN. I don't care what time, we'll play at midnight. Just get us on the tube.
Yes.
And it's happening. I mean, you really can. See, the students love to come out at midnight. It's an excuse not to go to class the next day. But I don't particularly like the 9 o'clock games. Fortunately, we can afford to charter a flight, get them back. They're back in school. If we charter, they must be in class, at 9 o'clock the next morning or 8 o'clock class. And it's the professors watch the game, and he comes and says, my gosh, how are you here? From Notre Dame last year. We had a late game. We got back. They were in class the next morning. But you'd prefer it. We could pick the times, and we could, perhaps. I know you came on, remember, and you said it can't be before 1 o'clock in the east because people go to church in North Carolina. They go to church everywhere sometimes, and then they would have time. And so you did make a voice in that, I think, with Chancellor Fordham or Chancellor Taylor, and we're able to do that.
You produced many teams, and I could have had a lot of pictures up here, but I found this one. And I want our viewers to get a good look at this. One of your more famous teams.
Well, your viewers can, but I got to get my glasses.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, I see it.
Here.
I got it.
This picture is James Worthy.
I can see that.
Okay.
Jimmy Black. Okay, James. Yeah.
He's still playing.
And Michael Jordan with hair.
Yeah.
And
Baseball.
Dean Smith without the big stomach. Sam Perkins, Jimmy Black, and Matt Doherty. Jimmy Black's the assistant at Notre Dame now.
Yeah.
And Matt Doherty's assistant at Kansas for Roy Williams,
Yeah.
one of our assistants. And Jeff Lebo, who is not a member of that team, was assistant coach for Eddie Fogler at South Carolina. And Michael is in Sarasota playing winter ball. James is getting ready for his, 13th season or something, and special. He's from your area. And then Sam Perkins is still playing for Seattle, and they had the best record in the NBA last year. And playing for George Karl, who went to Carolina in '73.
You've got quite a few of your former players who are coaches, college, and George was in the pro circuit. How many of your former athletes are in the NBA now?
I'd have to get the brochure out to answer how many athletes. I don't know whether we have 12 in the NBA, Matt Winstrom we're delighted. He made the NBA of the Boston Celtics. He's in Austria now, but he made the 12th man, and we're excited, and he was excited. Robert Parrish helped him. Robert's going to be here in Charlotte, and Robert liked him, and I think he helped talk the brass into keeping Matt last year, and Matt's certainly capable.
One of the things that is often said about your teams, Dean, and about your record as a coach is that all of these young men go on to do what you just indicated. Richard Venroot sitting here, he's mayor. You've got others who've been very successful in business. When you're coaching these young men, you work on the notion that they have to give some of their energy and time in public service, such as Richard is doing here?
Well, certainly I'm happy that Richard is here. I'm happy that he's mayor. I'm happy he was a very successful lawyer before then. In fact, on another matter, if I can switch, seeing Richard, we went to the same church back when he was in school in Chapel Hill, and it was an integrated church at the time. And shortly after that, Richard said, you know, I came from disadvantaged youth, and of course, you know, wealth in East Mecklenburg. He said, 'cause I never got a chance to be with any African-American students. And I never heard it, because diversity is so very important. And Richard was working in that direction even, I don't know, I'm sure it's going well in Charlotte, but he is just, has always been concerned about human beings. In fact, I would imagine that Richard, in fact, I know Judy was at church too, but I doubt, you know, because we didn't have any other African-American players, when they got married, their ushers were all fraternity brothers, Phi Delta or something. What I like is happening now, in the last 15 years, 77, I really thought about this. The only thing I thought about is you can tell. The last 15 years of all the, because I do go to our players' first wedding, and they get married second time. No. But actually, I go to their weddings, and every one of them since 77, Eric Montross is the last, and you know, there was Derek Phelps and Brian Reese's ushers, and Henrik Rodel got married. His best man was George Lynch, and that it made me think what Richard said. I mean, that's where I think college athletics has done more to bring about maybe a change in all the prejudice and bigotry that you know as human beings. And if you say anything about intercollegiate athletics since you know 50s, 60s, and 70s, you'd have to say good has happened there. But now your original question, I forgot.
I'll give you another one.
All right.
In the work of the Knight Commission, when we looked at all the programs all over the United States, I always took great pride in making the point that through all the years, none of your teams has ever been cited for any kind of infraction, nor has any one of your athletes. But saying it more positively, you set the example in showing how you can play the level of basketball, intercollegiate basketball, and do it well and do it the way it should be done, and in the process, educate the young men to do the kinds of things you're just mentioning. What's the system? How do you go about it?
I think it's the university for whom I work, and they demand people who can do the work, and so they will graduate. Now, I do make sure they get there to class, and I do have that. We have a lot of power over them, and they want to play, and we had one young man that missed a year of school. I mean, a year of playing. He was redshirted. He didn't know why. This is a long time ago, so I'm not saying names. I said, if you miss a class, you're going to miss a game. He missed 28 classes before the season started. So he missed 28 games. But really, it's the type of young man that is attracted to Chapel Hill, and they do choose. They don't come to our place. They don't want to play as a team, play together. We do encourage you know, some community service. Only now it's gotten so. Poor Eric Montross and George Lynch, they were out speaking all across the state, and we did. That's one problem we have that I don't think anybody knows about, is we've accidentally become the public relations arm of the university. I mean, to sit, you know, we have our autograph sessions. Well, they ought to be studying that time. So I'm not saying don't send in your pictures to be autographed, but I don't think anyone knows. I had one secretary until we got to be on television a lot in the 70s, and then now we have 5 just to cover mail that's coming in. So it changes. But we are fortunate, President Friday, the type of young man we've had and representing the university, and they have managed to win some games so I can keep my job, and I appreciate that. And, I like the way they play hard. I think they love to play defense. That's where our program is built, at the defensive end of the court.
I went back to check, and I found that of all the men who lettered under you in Carolina basketball, your graduation rate is 97.4%. Now, what about academic requirements as you hear them debated today, Dean? What needs to be changed?
Of course, that's their graduation rate. I happen to be their coach, but, I'm really pleased that, and almost over a third have gone on to graduate school of some kind. But gosh, I'd changed a lot on the academic side. But the one thing we can't forget, and I think I've said this, is Richard's talk about diversity. Harvard Business Review in 1990 had a great article about diversity, because that's what workplace is about. So certainly we need to give opportunity to someone coming in. Is that a time we got to move?
All
right. But, when I say opportunity, I do want to say that, to me, I once said, let's let any school bring anybody they want into school. But the worst 200 students couldn't be athletes. And because every school today, they will bend admissions for a good athlete. Every Ivy down the line. But what's so nice about what I like at Chapel Hill is they said 300 some exceptions, 26 were athletes and the others weren't. Back to helping the diversity. And I think I would be very careful not to raise SATs to the point that it hurts a young person who has not had any background. And that's where Prop 48's been great. Prop 48, in case people don't know, they must take the college courses, then they will do better. President Hearn at Wake Forest said the 700 proves it's not bias. Well, that didn't prove it. It's the fact they're taking the courses, and that's how they can help. But and then we somehow anybody can breathe can get into universities across the country through other routes, the junior college, and there's some great junior colleges. But Chuck Young, our friend, the chancellor at UCLA, he brought a transcript once and said this guy's All-American halfback, and the toughest course he had is New Testament history. And so I think it's getting better, though, and I hope it will continue. And before you pull that one out, I got one. I don't know what that one is, but
I'm hiding this.
I saw this time. But one thing I want the President's Commission to do, I wrote the ACC presidents, and I should have sent a copy to you. You were not an ACC president. No. Well, I guess you represented state and us, but as does President Spangler. But it's a shame that the worst problem they have on the campuses now, really, it was in the Raleigh News Observer September 10th, is alcohol consumption is the worst. And what I'm worried, I'm not telling anybody not to have a beer or something. And what I'm saying is through the years, in '88, I asked the presidents of the ACC, do away with that silly ad that says, and now a word from our good friends at Budweiser, our good friends, that's where the leading cause of death, and I went to the Senate to say a lot of this, and I said it better than I'm saying here, not much better, but from 18 through 25, the leading cause of death is alcohol related. That's right. And our presidents could change that. But no, I hadn't gotten that. Oh, Chancellor Monteith was very nice. He agreed. He wrote me.
We'll stir it up again.
But where are the others? Maybe we'll see how many watch this program as my little needle to get things started. But there's no difference of beer and vodka or beer and scotch. And I think let's bring scotch ads on. That's okay.
We want to do something else about this fella. Nobody ever had a golf caddy like this caddy. Can you see over there on the monitor?
I remember that. They wouldn't guess who the other two are, though.
Dean Smith got his second hole-in-one just recently, and I have his verification of that, his golfing partner, Chris Fordham and Bob Eubanks and some others. But this is Mildred the Bear. He was up.
And you're talking about a long time ago. Look at the weight. That's Larry Brown, who had just become head coach at Carolina Cougars. And then Bill Guthridge next to him, who had just replaced Larry Brown on my staff. Yeah. And and we had Doug Moe there. He was afraid of the bear. So we had to force him.
What's been the greatest thrill you ever had in coaching?
Gosh, I've had so many great thrills. From a coaching standpoint, to see a group of youngsters go on the road And I see a friend, Bill Miller, out there. He was at Illinois, at these, away from home, and people are screaming and hollering. And we've been successful at Duke and at State and at Wake, but to win in that situation. But the thrill, I guess, is I still have a job, but see the guys do well, and see them come back, and so there's been so many thrills it'd be impossible to name them all.
But you were telling me earlier that sitting there watching those young men in the Olympics represent our country for them.
It was for them, and 4 of them were our guys, but everybody said we couldn't win the gold medal, and John Thompson, my assistant, Bill Guthridge, my assistant, and I, we stood way in the background, and they started the Star-Spangled Banner, and those 12 guys getting their gold medal, and all 3 of us were crying, but I've done that. I cry easily, I guess, with my own teams in Carolina.
We don't cry as we end, but the man says we're out of time, Dean. So thank you for joining me on North Carolina People. It's grand to see you.
Thank you.
Production of North Carolina People is made possible by a grant from Wachovia Bank, a symbol of strength, stability, and service for over a century.